In the heart of Europe, the city of Prague has long been a crossroads of culture, politics, and religion. Its cobblestone streets wind beneath towering Gothic spires, whispering centuries of intrigue, power struggles, and rebellion. Yet among all the stories etched into its history, few are as startling or as literal as the Defenestrations of Prague. The word defenestration itself means the act of throwing someone out of a window, and in Prague, this act became a political tool of terrifying precision. The first great defenestration occurred in 1419, a city simmering with religious tension between radical Hussites and the Catholic authorities. On a sweltering July day, a crowd of angry Hussites stormed the new town hall, shouting grievances that had festered for years. They demanded justice for the imprisonment of their brethren and the corruption they saw in city officials. When the councilors refused to meet their demands, the mob's fury boiled over. They dragged several city officials to the windows, and in a moment that stunned onlookers, hurled them into the street below. The fall alone would have been deadly, but to make matters worse, the crowd reportedly beat the victims with clubs as they lay sprawled on the cobblestones. This violent act ignited the Hussite Wars, a series of brutal conflicts that would engulf Bohemia for years. But Prague was far from done with dramatic high-stakes politics. A second, equally shocking defenestration took place in 1618, setting the stage for one of Europe's most catastrophic wars, the 30 Years' War. Tensions were high between Protestant nobles and the Catholic Habsburg rulers, with religion and politics intertwined like tightly coiled serpents. At Prague Castle, Protestant rebels confronted the emperor's representatives, demanding greater religious freedoms. When negotiations broke down, the rebels acted with swift brutality. They seized two imperial governors and their secretary, dragged them to a window of the Bohemian chancellery, and threw them into the icy moat below. Legend has it that they survived the 70-foot fall, saved by a pile of manure that cushioned their landing, a miraculous twist that became part of Prague's lore. Still, the shock of the event reverberated across Europe, igniting a war that would claim millions of lives and reshape the continent forever. These defenestrations were more than acts of violence. They were statements of rebellion, desperation, and political theater. They symbolized the extreme lengths to which people would go when the pressures of religion, oppression, and power collided. Each window became a stage, each fall a message. Authority could be challenged, rulers could be humbled in the most shocking of ways. Even outside of Prague, the term defenestration became synonymous with political revolt. It entered dictionaries, legal texts, and historical accounts as a word that conveyed both literal and metaphorical upheaval. For centuries, scholars debated the causes, implications, and symbolism of these events, dissecting every detail with the precision of surgeons. The city of Prague itself carries these stories in its very stones. Tourists walking past the old town hall or the Bohemian chancellery may see the windows and feel a shiver, imagining the chaos, fear, and fury that erupted there centuries ago. Plaques and historical markers hint at the violence, but the reality, the screams, shattered authority, the sudden and brutal assertion of power, can only be imagined. Historians note that the defenestrations were rarely about personal revenge. They were about the collision of ideology and governance. The individuals who were thrown represented entire systems: the church, the monarchy, the ruling elite, and their falls symbolized the collapse of imposed authority. It was theater and terror combined, a public spectacle that communicated political will in the most dramatic possible way. Even today, the defenestrations of Prague inspire awe, horror, and disbelief. They remind us that history is not only written with words, but sometimes enacted with brutal physicality. They reveal the volatility of human societies, the power of ideology, and the shocking ways that ordinary people can disrupt the course of empires. In classrooms, history books, and documentaries, the defenestrations are recounted as cautionary tales of rebellion. They warn that when tensions reach a tipping point, the most unimaginable acts can become instruments of history. And for Prague, they remain part of its identity, a city that has witnessed the literal and symbolic throwing of power from its windows, time and time again. For those who study history, the defenestrations of Prague are not just oddities. They are pivotal events that demonstrate how small, shocking acts can reverberate through centuries. From the fall of city councillors in 1419 to the Habsburg governors in 1618, these events changed the political and religious landscape of Europe forever. They illustrate the fragility of authority, the intensity of human emotion, and the dramatic extremes of historical conflict. And perhaps, as you walk through the streets of modern Prague, the echoes of those who were thrown still linger in the air, whispers of rebellion, courage, and the unyielding force of history itself. Like and subscribe so you don't miss even more interesting historical facts.